Greetings all. We're now on the monthly chart of Nasdaq 100, and a couple of months ago I had spoken about this candlestick over here, which is a liquidity candlestick. And if you recall, I had spoken about how in the future price needs to reach this point to trigger all of that liquidity that's sitting at that point, right? To add to that, I'd also spoken about how we have an M structure at this point and a neckline at this level, and we saw price breaking to the bottom side of that neckline and then heading back up to test the neckline. And I'd said that we should have looked for potential selling opportunities at this point, and that our take profit should at least be this point over here, right? And that's actually what I expect to happen, that price should in the future continue to push down at least up until this level, right? And should price in my humble opinion close below this level, what I would do is wait for it to head back to the level to test it, and then again at this level we would look for potential selling opportunities to at least around this level again, which is a very strong level of support in my humble opinion. And similarly, we would also wait for price to close below that area, and then for it to head back to the area, and then again we would look for potential selling opportunities to this level over here. And I believe that at this level over here we will likely get a very big reversal of price, and that is because, as I've said guys, that we have this candlestick over here which is carrying a whole lot of liquidity at that level, and liquidity is money, to those of you who don't know what liquidity is, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So from here what I'm going to do is head down to the weekly chart. So here we are on the weekly chart, and this M structure that I just spoke about on the monthly chart is better visible, as you guys can see. To add to that, previously we had spoken about how we have this very nice W structure at that level, which has a neckline at that point, right? I hope you guys can see that. And I'd said that we should wait for price to head back to the neckline and potentially look for buying opportunities at that point. And similar to the US30 chart, the market indeed came back to our neckline to test it, and it also gave us a confirmation to buy, and that is because it gave us this bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, which, as I said guys, indicated that we should be looking for buying opportunities. However, I believe that this entire move was a trap. Why do I say so? That is because as much as we have this W structure over here, remember guys that when it comes to W structures, a lot of traders buy on the second leg of the W structures, and they just place their stop losses just below that structure. So we have a lot of money that's sitting below here. So this entire move downwards could be a stop hunt to trigger all of those stop losses that are sitting at this point, and then we might possibly get a very nice W formation, possibly, right? To add to that guys, we also have, as I've said, these two candlesticks which are both liquidity candlesticks, and they too are carrying a lot of liquidity at those levels, which needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another, right? So what this tells us in conclusion is that there's plenty of scope for the market to move further down. I know that many of us are looking for the market to actually start retracing and start to go upwards, but if you look at how the world is structured at this point in time, it's not looking good, right? And fundamentals at this as well are not as great as we would love them to be, right? So there is plenty of scope for the markets to continue to move further down, and we just need to make sure that we are up to speed in regards to what's happening across the board, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So from here what I'm gonna do is head to the daily chart, seeing that I don't see much of interest on the weekly chart. However, before I do so, let me just also remind you that we also have these candlesticks over here, which are liquidity candlesticks, and they tell us that at one point or another the market has to still head up to grab all of those liquidity points because they represent money, right? So from here I'm just going to head down to the daily chart, and here we are on the daily chart, right? Let's see. The first thing that I'm going to do in regards to the daily chart is add my daily channel. So just bear with me, guys. Let's see, daily channel. Let's see, let's have a look. I would add my daily channel in this manner. In fact, I would add it in this manner. Just bear with me. There we go, more or less, right? There goes our daily channel, right? So what else do we see on the daily chart that we should be paying attention to? Another thing that is very much important is the fact that if you look at this trend line or this channel, we can see that it's been broken to the bottom side, right? Which in my opinion indicates that the market is getting ready to push further down, in my humble opinion. To add to that, we also have an overextended M structure over here, which has a neckline at this point, right? Let me just redraw that neckline properly, right? And we can see that the neckline of that M structure has been broken to the bottom side. So what we expect at this point in time is for the market to move further up to just test that neckline, and at that neckline we will look for further selling opportunities, right? And as you can see, guys, remember we also have this trend line, and this trend line in my opinion may be tested as well, and we might potentially see the market push further down, right? To add to that, guys, in fact, before we continue, I'm just going to add a neckline for that M structure, so just bear with me. We can say that more or less this is our neckline, and remember that necklines are an area and not so much an actual line, right? So as much as we have this overextended M structure over here and the neckline being at that point, this entire line over here, or this entire area over here, is also a very important or very strong level of resistance at this point in time, because in the past we've had multiple rejections at that point, as you guys can see. And as I've said, guys, the anticipation at this stage is for the market to push further up to test the area again, and at that point, or at this point, we will most likely look for selling opportunities, right? To add to that, can you guys see that we have this candlestick as well? It is also a liquidity candlestick. Similarly, we have another one over here, which is also a liquidity candlestick, right? Not to mention this W structure that I spoke about. Let me just clear the board actually. This W structure that I spoke about, which is carrying a lot of stop losses just below. So as I've said, guys, there is plenty of reason for the market to push further down to trigger all of those liquidity points, and then we might potentially see a reversal, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So what else do we see on this chart that we should be paying attention to, which is the daily chart? Another thing that is also very much interesting is how the last daily candlestick closed. It closed as a bearish candlestick with a small body and a very long lower wick, which tells me that there is a lot of liquidity at this level as well, where the candlestick ends, and the market needs to grab that liquidity. So it is quite possible that early next week we might see price push at least further down to where this candlestick ends at the very least. So myself personally, I will most likely be looking for selling opportunities where that neckline is, right? And the key phrase is potential selling opportunities, right? It may happen that price hits back to the neckline and I don't sell, and that'll be because the conditions will not be meeting my requirements for an actual sell, right? So we always need confidence. We always need to make sure that we use good money management to ensure that we increase our chances of being profitable in as far as this game of trading is concerned, right? So what else do we see on this chart? What else do we see on this chart? Another thing that I see is that the reason why price retraced to this level right, is because we had this pattern, which is a head and shoulders pattern, which had a neckline at this point over here, as you guys can see. So it explains why the market at this point traced, and we should have indeed looked for selling opportunities at this point. And to add to that, guys, I believe that this pattern, this head and shoulders pattern, should at least end at this point, more or less, right? Because that's more or less where it started, in my humble opinion. So I would love to see it end at this point at the very least, right? So there is plenty of scope for the market to push further down, right? So what I'm going to do now is head down to the H4 chart. So here we are on the H4 chart. Just want to fix my my lines. Just bear with me. There we go, more or less. There we go, more or less. All right, there goes our daily channel. So what else do we see in regards to the H4 chart, right? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. What else do we see on the H4 chart that we should be looking at? On the H4 chart, remember guys, on the daily chart, I spoke about how we have this structure on the daily chart, which has a neckline at that point, right? Can you guys also see that on the H4 chart we have a smaller M structure over here, which has a neckline at that point as well, right? In fact, I'm just going to add a line to that structure, because that'll be confluence, because we have two M structures, one on the daily chart and another on the H4 chart, and they both more or less seem to be sharing a neckline, or they've got a neckline in the same area, which adds to the confluence, and it makes this entire region over here a very strong level of resistance, in my humble opinion, right? So that's our H4 chart, guys, and as I said, at this point in time, I would wait for price to head back to this level, and at this level I would most likely look for potential selling opportunities, right? In fact, let me just actually add a channel to that H4 chart. Let's see. Just bear with me. Let's see. All right, there we go. Right. So in regards to the H4 chart, really guys, I don't see much at this point in time. And just to conclude, as I said, I would just wait for price to head back to around this level, and at this level I will most likely look for potential selling opportunities, right? So that is it in as far as my analysis goes. I hope what I've said makes sense, and you might want to rewatch the video just to make sure that it makes sense. And cheers guys.